So I'm going to ask your patience here for a second, because apparently there is a problem in the live stream in that there is no sound in it.
Yes.
So I think I've turned it on, especially because I can hear sound now. Okay, now there's sound. So we're going to just have a moment of play, because that's the theme for the month, as we try and figure out what was causing that problem. That's mic box 4. Let's take these down. And say, we're going to give it 20 seconds for the live stream to catch up, and if they can still hear us, then I have no idea what actually caused the problem, but we will have fixed it. So from right now, from when I snapped on, can somebody in the live stream tell me if you heard that snap? And if you didn't, yeah, I'm assuming I'll hear that the sound is not working. Yes, the feedback is the feedback is that there is some feedback because I turned on all of the audio at once. Okay, the snap registered. I think we're good. So, on that note, my goodness. All right. Our chalice lighting words this morning are by the Reverend Hannah Roberts Villeneuve, who writes, "A protest and a party. People sometimes ask, is pride a protest or a party? And the answer is, of course, yes. And why not? Why not resist, rejoice as we resist, dance as we demand change, celebrate as we create community that delights in all of who we are? So bring all of that with you this morning. Bring your policy demands, but bring your glitter. Bring your Supreme Court broken heart. Bring your rainbow socks. Bring the emptiness you feel for our siblings gone too soon. Bring your Gloria Estefan remix. Bring your tender hope for change. Bring your most garish eyeshadow. Bring your spirit tattered and battered by a world that seems insistent on choosing fear and hate. Gather up all these things and bring them here, to a place where we don't have to shoulder these burdens or celebrate these joys alone. Come, let us worship together."
There's my company, the moose.
Oh. Hello. You going to join me for the story?
Yeah, and
Excellent.
CP.
Thank you.
Peek at
A story is always better with an audience. Several years ago, I attended a storytelling conference in Grass Valley, California, where I was introduced to a fabulous storyteller named Willie Claflin, who is the author of our story today. Willie Claflin often tells his stories with his friend, Maynard the Moose. And Maynard the Moose tells stories in a way which is a little bit different than I typically would. And I'm going to let him take the lead today, since the theme of our services this month is play. And a minor warning, this story contains moose language, which is sometimes known to scrumble the brain.
Hey, Chelsea,
Maynard.
before you start, could I ask you to move a foot to your left so that Maynard is in the camera?
Yes. You ready? Did you ever hear a story that would go on and on and on and on, and when you get to the end, you would scratch your hairs and ask yourself, gee, what was that all about? And no matter how much you would ask yourself, you would still not know? Well, here is a story just like that. It's called Rapunzel and the Seven Dwarfs. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, there was a girl named Punzel with long, long goldy hair. Her hair was so long that it dragged out from behind her along the ground. It get dragged through mud puddles and kids run over it on their bicycles and it become extremely filthified, all full of sticks and twigs and little nastified wedgies of glop. This was driving Punzel bananas, so one day she decided to go to the hairdresser/witch's place to see if there was some kind of magic spell or gel that would keep her hairs clean. The witch tried everything. She tried spells, she tried gels, and even a beehive hairdo. But nothing worked, so instead she locked Punzel away in a tall, tall tower to keep her hairs from dragging on the ground. Every day the witch would come to the bottom of the tower and she would say, "Punzel, Punzel, Goldie fair. Punzel, Punzel, let down the hair." And Punzel would let down her hair and the witch would climb up and give her something to eat. Well, one day there would come along a handsome prince riding on a snow white moose, a noble beast. And the prince peek out from behind a tree and he see how the witch call up to Punzel and how she climb up the hairs and then back down again. So when the witch go away, the prince decide he going to try the same thing. The handsome prince, he tiptoe to the bottom of the tower and he say it real quiet because he don't want the witch to hear him and turn him into a toad or something. "Punzel, Punzel, Goldie fair. Punzel, Punzel, let down the hair." But he don't say the word loud enough for Punzel to hear him real good. Her think him say, "Let down a pear." So she fling a big juicy pear out the window, splat. It hit the prince right on the shoe. He get out his little monogram princey hanky and he wipe off the shoe and he try again. "Punzel, Punzel, Goldie fair. Punzel, Punzel, let down the hair." But this time Punzel sneezed just when he say hair and she think he say, "Let down your chair." So she fling a big heavy chair out the window. The chair hit the prince on the head and he was knocked unconscionable. When he wake up, he try one more time. "Punzel, Punzel, Goldie fair. Punzel, Punzel, let down the hair." This time Punzel hear him real good. Her let all the hair all the way down to handsome prince start to climb up, but the prince, he was a little bit chubbified. The handsome prince was so heavy when he started to climb up the hairs, he flipped Punzel right out the window. Her go sailing through the air and land in the duck pond, splat. Well, about this time the seven dwarfs come on by on their way home from digging gold in the mountain. There was clumsy, snoozy, cheerful, fearful, hyper hungry, Griselda, ambidextrous, and sometimes bewildered. There were 8 or 9 seven dwarfs. So the 8 or 9 dwarfs see Punzel in the duck pond and they do not want her to drownify herself. No, so they haul her out of the duck pond, and when Punzel tells them how she'd been locked up in the tower, the dwarfies decide to hide her away so the witch can't find her because they are very worried the witch will become extremely angrified when she finds out that Punzel has run away. So So through the forest they go, through the forest they go, until Punzel's long goldy hair get all snaggled up in a bramble bush. And she's stuck fast and cannot move. Well, the only way to set her free is to cut her hairs off. So they shave Punzel bald as a bowling ball. Well, just then the full moon start to rise, and the full moon shining on the top of Punzel's head make a little magic mirror there like a shiny crystal ball. The dwarfies all gather around in a circle and they say, "Mirror, mirror on Punzel's head, is the witch alive or is she dead?" And a picture of the witch float into view. She is extremely angrified, hopping up and down and smashing teacups and crockeries and kicking the cat. "Quick, quick," say the dwarfies, and they lead Punzel away through the forest until they get to their little dwarfy hovel, and there they lock the door. Next morning, bright and early, off again go the dwarfs to dig gold in the mountain. "Now you be careful, Punzel," they say. "You stay inside and don't open the door." But meanwhile, the witch disguised herself as an old rhinoceros and come through the forest with a wheelbarrow full of poison watermelons. And every time she lose the way, she use her magical extrasensory deceptions, and off on a new path she go. Finally, she get to the dwarfy hovel and knock on the door with a fake rhino horn. Bonk, bonk. Punzel peek out the window. "Hello," say the witch. "It me, a friendly forest rhinoceros. Would you like a bit of one of my tasty watermelons?" "Yes, I would," say Punzel. So she take a bite and then fall down dead. Except she wasn't really dead. She takes such a huge bite of watermelon that it stick in her throat and she do not swallow it all the way. So instead of being dead, she just fell into an endless poison watermelon sleep. Well, when the dwarfies come back from digging in the gold mountain and find Punzel unconscionable in an endless sleep, they do not know what to do. Everybody's sad, even cheerful. But pretty soon the dwarfies get an idea. They put her in a big glass box and charge all the animals 25 cents to come and see her. All the forest animals line up to have a look, and well, the Sleeping Punzel Museum's a big success. Dwarfies don't have to dig for gold no more. But one day who should come along once more but the handsome prince riding on a snow-white moose. And the moose do not look where it going, and it trip over the glass case and smash it to smithereens. Punzel wake up. She cough out the bits of watermelon. When she see the noble, kindly, handsome moose leaning over her, she asked if it would be okay to give him a kiss on the nose, and he say yes. "My hero," say Punzel. And Punzel and the moose ride off into the sunrise. And they live happily never afterwards. And as for the handsome Prince Eagle married a witch, and they live in a tall tower happily never afterwards. And the dwarves lived happily never afterwards too. And the moral of this story is, if you have long goldy hair that drag out from behind you along the ground, then you should always, the moral of the story is, if you get flipped out a window and land in the duck pond, you should always remember that, the moral of the story is, there ain't no moral to some stories at all. And that is the end of our story. Goodbye, friends.
Life is the greatest gift of all, the riches on arm of life, its shining gift, the measure of all things. Up from the dust our temples lift, our vision soars on wings. For seed and root, for flower and fruit, our grateful spirit sings.
Part of our service each week is speaking names that we are holding in joy or in sorrow into shared space. When we're together in person, we do this in this shared space, in this room. When we have done it online over the last 16 or 17 months, we've done it into a chat box on our live stream. In this season where we are both online and in person, we combine those two. And so in a moment, I will ask you to speak the names of those you're holding in joy and celebration into this shared space. I will repeat those names so that the folks in the live stream can hear them, and then I will repeat out the names that they are typing there. So what are the names that we are holding in joy or celebration this morning?
Denise DeBose is back.
Denise DeBose is back. And I'm sorry, there was one over here.
Dick and Karen celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary.
Dick and Karen are celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary.
My grandfather beating cancer.
Grandfather beating cancer.
Meredith and Megan get married in 2 weeks.
Meredith,
Erica and Megan.
Meredith,
Erica.
and Erica and Megan are getting married in several weeks, not to each other. Those are two separate joys. We contain multitudes. In the live chat, there is a joy for Dan. Congratulations to Becky and Shudid, who are celebrating their 51st anniversary. There are general congratulations flying in the chat room for anniversaries everywhere. Any other joys?
Carolyn, my neighbor who I didn't recognize with a mask on.
For Carolyn. For Al, for his continued rapid recovery from surgery. We also know that even as we gather in celebration, even as we gather in joy, that the story is always a little bit more complicated. That the church must be a place where we can also bring and lay down the sorrows of our lives. So in these next moments, will you speak the names of those you are carrying in sorrow or grief this morning?
Dana.
Dana.
Sumar.
Sumar.
Dana and Lorenz.
Dana and Lorenz.
Carrie,
Terry.
the family of Paul John Gard.
The family of Paul Johnsgard. I'll add Robert Nolan and family. And from the live stream, there is a note for Deb as she navigates cancer, and for Wendy. For all these names, and for the names that we hold dear and close to our hearts, even if we are not yet ready to speak them. We send our love, we send our prayers, we send our thoughts. Whoever you are carrying, let us reflect on those names during this next piece of music. Also Dom, Tony, cancer and Alzheimer's, and the cruelty of disease that hollows out a person. Our reading this morning is by the Reverend Marisol Caballero, entitled Go Play. Among my circle of friends, There's an ongoing inside joke. To quote song lyrics that give terrible advice. Among them are, don't cry out loud, hold it inside. Learn to hide your feelings. Another is, smile though your heart is aching, smile even though it's breaking. In our Eurocentric American culture, outward displays of emotions other than happiness are taboo. Women especially are taught that anger is unacceptable or unladylike. Just listen to how country singer Miranda Lambert sings about her mother's rebuffed advice. Go and fix your makeup, girl, it's just a breakup. Run and hide your crazy and start acting like a lady, because I raised you better. Gotta keep it together even when you fall apart. But this ain't my mama's broken heart. Of course, it's not just women who feel pressure to control their difficult emotions. Men are pressured to be manly about how they express theirs too. There are definitely acceptable and unacceptable means of expressing sadness, of expressing anger, frustration, or any other emotion that's deemed unpleasant. When our emotions boil the lid off of those repressed feelings, we risk behaving in regrettable ways with the people we love most. There exists, however, a growing body of both scientific and anecdotal evidence that it's possible to fake it till we make it on our way to happiness, and that such faking doesn't necessarily deny the full range of our human emotional experience. Studies tell us there's a connection between the upward movement of the corners of the mouth, which we might also call smiling, and the production of serotonin in the brain. Maybe this is why nowadays my therapist ends most sessions by telling me the same thing that my mom used to shout at us whiny, bored kids on long summer days. Go play. To play is to pretend. And honestly, sometimes the world seems too heavy to leave the house, let alone inspire moments of joy. But the more I watch the news these days, the more I'm coming to view playing, intentionally seeking joy, as a means of radical resistance. And I'll continue to laugh with my friends at songs that deliver terrible emotional advice. Our next hymn is hymn number 1. May nothing evil cross this door.
Typically when we sing hymns, we rise in body or spirit. So why don't we rise in body or spirit just because you can. It's just a little stretch for you, right? When we're listening at home, we can actually do that without anybody knowing. So, yeah.
This is so short, I think I'll play it clear through.
Oh, wow. Here we go.
May nothing evil cross this door, but may fortune never pride.
This continues to be a strange and difficult year. I wrote the first draft of this sermon on Friday in a conference room in Kearney, in central Nebraska, listening in on a public comment period for the Nebraska State School Board. I'll get to the sermon that I meant to preach this week in a moment. But first I want to talk a little bit about what happened on Friday. So first, some background information. Nebraska in the past has not had state standards for health education. Over the last year, the State Board of Education developed and published draft guidelines. They were published in initial form in March. And over the last 2 months, those guidelines have generated a lot of comments, including from the governor's office. To be clear, I've read every page of the 45-page long guidelines, and there is nothing in those guidelines that's particularly surprising or particularly unusual to us at this church. Education around gender and sexuality has been a central part of Unitarian Universalism for a few generations now, from the then groundbreaking adult About Your Sexuality classes in the 70s and 80s to Our Whole Lives. I was part of the first cohort of OWL students, to modern additions to OWL, including comprehensive sexuality education for older adults. And we know, because we've seen it over 40 years in our churches, that this education saves lives. Accurate information and consent are keystones, both of our faith's approach and the standards that the State Board of Education proposed. So, with that in mind, here is the comment that I submitted for the meeting on Friday, and you should know that I did so on Unitarian Church of Lincoln letterhead in my professional role at this church. If you have questions about that or concerns about that, you are welcome to take it up with me following the service. Good morning. My name is the Reverend Oscar Sinclair. Since 2017, I have served as the minister of the Unitarian Church of Lincoln. I am also a transplanted Nebraskan. My wife and I moved here from elsewhere, in part because we were told over and over again how good a place this was to raise children. My faith teaches 2 big things: that each person has inherent worth and dignity, and that we are all interconnected in what King called a single garment of destiny. Those lessons are unequivocal for us, as is my support for the proposed standards in front of you. We should not be afraid, as parents or as people of faith, of more knowledge. My daughter is 3.5 years old. She is already asking questions about her body, about family structure, and about gender identity. If she is old enough to ask, she is old enough to need honest and forthright answers. When she is in kindergarten, I expect her to learn medically accurate names of body parts. And we should not be afraid as parents or as people of faith of autonomy, that each person is allowed to make their own decisions. So when my daughter is in kindergarten, I expect her school to talk about consent explicitly. If we have not done so, then we have fallen short as parents and as educators. We should not fear knowledge. We should not fear autonomy. This proposal will help young Nebraskans to make informed decisions about their actions and their bodies. I strongly encourage you to adopt it. I didn't get a chance to say that on Friday. In a day-long meeting, 150 public comments were submitted. The board heard the first 75. I was number 103 on the list. But 72 out of the 75 statements we heard were from people vehemently opposed to the proposed standards. including the first 68. I moved to the state 4 years ago. Actually, like this month. 4 years ago this month, I was candidating in Lincoln. And there have been moments since then when I've been surprised by Nebraska, and usually those surprises have been good. Learning about the complicated nature of state politics, making genuine friendships with folks much different than myself, gaining a new appreciation of Jell-O molds. Seeing representatives who I did not vote for taking positions that were better than I expected from them. And Friday was not that. Multiple comments condemned the proposed guidelines as bringing ideology into the classroom, described as a demonic plot, a conspiracy to corrupt the youth of Nebraska. It was it was the first time in 30 years of going to public events that I felt physically unsafe in a civic event. So the fact that I was surprised by that, the fact that that was the first time that's happened to me, is a function of privilege, right? We should be honest about that. Because I did not grow up in rural Nebraska. I live in the world as a straight married white guy. I've rarely been on the receiving end of the kind of vitriol that we saw on Friday. And the folks organizing the progressive response warned me. Abby Swadsworth warned me. They had a room set up, unmarked, to gather and support each other. And so I went home on Friday from Kearney, heartbroken in at least two ways. First, in understanding just how deep my blind spot had been, that this had not happened in my experience before. First by the hatred I had just seen from so many people that I share a state with. But then second, in understanding just how deep my blind spot had been. Because I've known it intellectually. I've heard stories of how important it was and is that PFLAG have a confidential sanctuary in this building. But I don't think I fully grasped until about 2 days ago the depth of that need in this place. So before going on, let me just stop and say that Friday was one day of a very long process. There will be other days for public comment. The next one is on August 7th. It will likely not be in Kearney. It will be in probably either Lincoln or Omaha. I will be there. If any of you want to be a part of this, we will find ways to get you there. The Board of Education has committed to releasing a second draft of these standards, likely sometime in the early fall. And Friday had the effect for me of making it real clear that this is something that I am going to spend time on over the next few months. I hope that some of you will join me in that work. There are postcards and pamphlets out in the gallery. I hope that you'll reach out if you want more information. This has been a hard year, and for me, Friday was a hard day. The hatred and discouragement are not the only stories of that day, because the other story is that room, unmarked on the outside, but full of color and laughter as soon as you opened the door. This room just off the main conference room where supporters of these guidelines gathered to tell jokes, to color, to meet each other's kids, to give each other hand-crocheted emotional support narwhals, unicorns being overrepresented. In the midst of this hard, harmful moment, There was some joy and play. If I had the foresight, I would have brought a copy of Untermeyer's poem, the one that we sang as the hymn just before this sermon. It goes, "With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls be thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in." There's a lesson in that. Because here's the sermon that I actually meant to give today. Our theme for the month of June is play. It's a counterintuitive theme, coming as it does at the end of the 2020-2021 church year, that will be remembered for a long time for its lack of play, as much as anything else. But that makes it all the more important to talk about now, at the close of the congregational year. Play is joyful. I spend a lot of time when I am not at work playing with our 3-year-old. And it has been a crash course in seeing the world in totally different ways. So a few observations as we begin this theme. First is that play serves many different purposes. The first purpose of play is simply play for play's sake. It doesn't actually need to be more complicated than that. Joy for joy's sake. We start there. We should not apologize for it. To be joyful is its own end. Sometimes we just need to have fun. Second, play is a way to work out how we interact with the world, how we interact with each other. Play is relational. It allows us to imagine a different world and then be in it for a few minutes. And then lastly, third, for today, there's more to come. Play is a way to build our resilience. Shakespeare in Macbeth talks about sleep knitting up the raveled sleeve of care. And play serves the same function. It knits together the places that we've been frayed. So we're going to play this summer. We've talked about this before, but let me lay out what the next few months at this congregation will be like. June is set. We'll talk about June as we go through June. But on July 4th, we'll begin our summer worship series. Like we did last year, we're participating in the UU Summer Worship Collaborative with about 10 other congregations across Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and Missouri. Each Sunday, one congregation will host the other 10, and this will be on our YouTube channel. For those that wish to gather in person, we'll play the services on the projector here in the sanctuary. Also, this year, Lincoln is hosting the first service on July 4th. So we get to set the bar for the rest of the services to come. And then after July 4th, we're stepping back from developing regular worship services on Sunday morning and Thursday night for a little bit, and just doing these worship cooperative services. This is for a few different reasons. The first, I think, that I have to say is to give our staff some time to rest and recover after a full year of church in the midst of a global pandemic. While it is remarkable what we have been able to do in the last year, we also need some Sabbath time to reknit the places where we've been worn down. I say the staff, I need that, just to be clear. But one of the ways that we're going to do that is through play. It's not simply disappearing for months. Over the next 3 months, June, July, August, we're putting together a series of events held together loosely with the title Summer Emergence Series. Some of those will look like worship. In July, we're going to have an outdoor Thursday night worship service in Antelope Park with the A Street Band. In August, we'll have a talent show. I'm trying to organize a congregational softball game. Next Saturday at 11 o'clock, I think. Jean's not in here to remind me, but I think it's at 11. We're doing something called Hot Ones. So I think I need to explain Hot Ones for just a moment. Hot Ones is it's a YouTube show where an interviewer asks celebrities questions about their lives while the interviewees are given progressively spicier and spicier hot wings. And a glass of milk. And Jean Helms, our administrative director, brought this up a couple months ago and somehow convinced the rest of the staff to do this, with, as I understand it, she asking the questions and us eating the wings. And then she gave us an option. We could either do the spicy version or the not spicy version. And I thought to myself, I'm from out east. I live in Nebraska, where apparently spicy ranch is hot. So I'll do the spicy option. And then I realized that Jean, in the interests of accuracy, has gotten the hot sauces from the actual show. And so it's a series of about 10, and the middle one is pure Scotch bonnet peppers. And it goes up from there. So I think maybe Bob and I are doing the spicy ones. Anyway, to cut this story short, that's happening on Saturday. And so this may actually be the last time that my mouth is able to speak words. So I'm glad you're here. Next Sunday, I may not actually be preaching. I may just be holding up cue cards and icing myself down. Anyway. So we're playing this summer. We were playing this summer first because we need joy. Joy for joy's sake. Laughter for laughter's sake. This is not a faith that is built on fear, but rather one that rises out of this beautiful and absurd experience of being alive with each other. Steve Garnis Holmes put the impulse this way: who says God has to be so serious all the time? That God can't have some fun, go on a lark, crack a good one? Who says God can't evolve a platypus instead of a woodchuck? Or a flightless bird, just as a joke? Or give you a gorgeous sunset just to see the expression on your face? Jesus' first miracle was a party trick. Pure fun. Wine from water. Sometimes joy is just joy and play is just play. But we're also playing this summer because we need connections with each other. We have been apart a long time, beloveds. And while we have done our best to maintain and build connection over the last year and a half, while we have been online, it is real that we miss being in the same space. A recent study came out of Kansas trying to quantify friendship. The research suggested that it takes about 40 to 60 hours of being in the same space with somebody else to form a friendship. About twice that for it to become a close friendship. And churches have always been a place for that, a place to knit together a community. And if we're honest, YouTube is not a great substitute for that part of church life. So as it is safe in the ways that we are able, we do need to be with each other, to have joyful experiences together, to hear each other's laughter, build community in the hundreds of informal ways that happen during play. And we're playing this summer because we need resilience. This is where those two sermons come together, the Friday and Sunday. Play builds resilience. It builds up our capacity to do the hard work of building a better world, because play allows us to imagine an alternate world, and then play allows us to go live in that world for a little bit. Before all the corporate additions and parade planning, this is also the message of pride of protest and of party. This is what Reverend Marisol Caballero means when she writes that the more I'm coming to view playing, intentionally seeking joy as a means of radical resilience. We need that resilience, friends. We need that resilience. I need that resilience after the last year and a half. We need resilience because we need to be about the work of transformation in the world. That's what we say every Sunday morning when we gather together. We're here to transform ourselves and the world. And we should be clear-eyed about this, from the Nebraska State Board of Education to the Movement for Black Lives to growing our own capacity to live lives of joy. There is a lot of transformation to do. But transformation does not come simply for the wanting of it. And it does not come from hard work alone. At the best of times, transformation starts with joy. And for that, we need to play. Amen. Each week, we take up an offering to support the programs and partners of this church in the community. As we are still in a pandemic, we will not be passing offering plates. However, you can take out your cell phones and text UC Lincoln to 73256 and the amount you wish to give for today's offering. Or you can take out your cell phones and play Candy Crush. And nobody will be able to tell the difference, and sometimes we just need joy in our lives. The offering or the play will now be gratefully received.
Crush those cards.
Come hum a song with me. Come hum a song with me. Come hum a song with me. That I might know your mind. And love you when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song about and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song aloud and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you
I should say as well, thank you so much to Julie for your music, to Bill. I don't know if everybody knows this, but Julie and Bill have been recording hymns all year. So, and it turns out it's not the same as actually hearing you sing in person.
It's not.
And to Carolyn for your flute today as well. We close with these words from Mary Ann Rodmacher. Every once in a while, make no plans. Have the nerve to walk out the door and let possibilities introduce themselves. Wonder, imagine, stare. Be surprised, parades will find you. Travel, in your armchair with a book, on a boat, in a car, in your thoughts, or a bike, or any vehicle that will take you from the walls of your own knowing to someplace else. Other gestures, smells, words, tastes, views, look upon the world through windows other than your own. Learn to be good company for yourself. A bit of joy passes by because there is no one to go with. A party of one is sometimes the best time. Dance by yourself, anywhere there is room in your house. There is something invigorating, even a bit magic to music, to movement, and the touch of laughter. So go ahead, dance. Enjoy participating in the unexpected. A little turn of whimsy is a gift, a quick, cool rain shower on a hot, dusty day. Enjoy flowers for no reason, visit an old friend, greet a stranger, tell a sweet little joke in line at the grocery store. What did the snail say as he climbed on the back of the turtle? Whee! Play can happen anywhere. You are the toy. And with that, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we are together again. Amen. And unlike the last 2 weeks, we have a postlude.
If you are fully vaccinated and green, this shirt means what it says.
Yes. Yeah, that would be good.
My family, you know my
I'm not sure.
He's quite sick. He doesn't. No, I'm not sure. I realize why he's stepping back.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. I still think the other Our brother-in-law just which, by the way, my kids were amazingly good. Despite that, Christianity,
I'm going to end the live stream.